Welcome back to the Changemaker podcast. I'm your host, Deke Copenhaver. Thank you for joining us. And my guest today is an old friend of mine, although he's not that old, Hodges Usry. He is a filmmaker based in Nashville at this point, is a videographer for Lady A, has worked with country singer Corey Smith, directed millions of commercials, and he's local. He graduated from Richmond Academy here in Augusta, Georgia, and Savannah College of Art and Design. So, Hodges, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Welcome to the Changemaker podcast, hosted by Deke Copenhaver. Deke is the author of The Changemaker, a Forbes publishing book that has reached #1 on Amazon on multiple occasions and in multiple categories like management skills and total quality management. During this podcast, Deke interviews exceptional change-making leaders. Deke currently operates Copenhaver Consulting, where he helps local governments and other public organizations maximize their potential. He's also a sought-after public speaker. We hope that the Changemaker has an impact on you today and that you find takeaways that make you a better leader in your life. Now, here's Deke.
So this is, I think we've cut some funny videos together, but I think this is the first time I've ever interviewed you.
I think you're right. Yeah. This is feels weird for me to talk about myself. So I was telling you last night, I was like, man, I hope I don't suck.
No, and you won't. But I was thinking about that this morning, that we talk about change-making leadership on the show. And really, I think that's a key part of it is humility. I mean, most people that I know that are really change makers don't often feel comfortable talking about themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I should be better at talking about myself. I feel like, I feel like my dad, who I consider as like my agent, quote unquote, and he's always trying. He's great at marketing, and he's like, man, you just gotta be, better about, explaining what you're doing and what's going on, and it's just it's never been my thing really. So
well, in that role, your dad, Brad Usry, reached out to me on Monday and said, I've got some stories I need to share with you about Hodges. And so so I spoke to your agent on Monday. But,
good.
But it's always
ahead of the game here.
It's always interesting to see how people got started in their chosen fields. I believe when you were maybe in 5th grade at Christmas, possibly, is when you were given a camera.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you started making videos. Talk a little bit about that. So you come by this from an early age.
Super early. I mean, 5th grade was kind of the year, it's like when I kind of was like, oh wow, this camera can do cool things. And, it was that the technology was just coming about where you could plug it into a computer through a FireWire cable, and, you could see the footage in real time as the video camera was playing on your computer. And, it was just one of those things where me and my friends would get together and we would create these basically parody of the TV show Cops. And we just have a good time, hanging around. Oh, there was an old Board of Education building, which used to be an old psych hospital on Lake Forest. And we would go up there and we'd use the old psych hospital as like our set. And we would try to make, some sort of plot without any script, of course. We were just making it up as we went. And looking back on them now, they're really, really terrible, but they're really funny. And so that was kind of the start of it. It's just like middle school shenanigans, just hanging around with my buddies and with a camera.
Well, your father also told me an interesting story about you, that you were in, I think, 7th grade, and you were into youth soccer. So your older brother, Havard, phenomenal soccer player, played college ball and everything. But your dad told me that you guys were on 95 headed to Jacksonville and talking about, continuing on with soccer. And you looked at your dad and said, I'm doing this for you guys. And you really were more passionate and interested in film. And I told your father, I said, that's change-making leadership at a very early age, because at that age, I would not have told my dad that. I would have gone with the flow and done what he told me to do. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I think that's a testament to them too. I mean, they kind of gave me free reign as far as like, hey, you do what you want to do, whatever you're passionate about. And it's like, we'll do our best to support you in whatever that is, as long as it's productive.
Yeah.
That was his big thing, is like, I'll get you whatever you need, or try to get you whatever you need, as long as you're doing something productive with it. And so I think that was a big testament to them as parents, my mom and my dad, just like being very supportive of, whatever decision it is, let's do it and do it well, try to go full force with it if you can. And so film, I always felt like was more my speed as opposed to, sports.
Well, it's funny. I grew up wanting to be a writer, and I wanted to be a journalist. And so I wanted to go to the University of Georgia and major in journalism. My dad wasn't having it, so I majored in business. And subsequently, and I don't recommend this for anybody, but I failed out of Georgia 3 times. So you probably didn't know that.
I had no idea.
And I learned more talking my way back into school than I ever did in any class. But then I was working for a bank in Atlanta, and after I lost my mom, I quit my job, went backpacking around the world, and at one point I took my dad with me to New Zealand and Australia, and he said, you know what, I wish I had always encouraged you in following your dream of being a writer. Well, flash forward, now I'm 53 years old and I have a book out. So it all comes full circle.
That is cool.
But it really, you can't be afraid to try something different. And oftentimes that's rewarded greatly. You won an award that was presented to you, I think in 2013 by Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, it was, I think, and it was a little earlier than 2013, but yeah, it was, that was definitely a moment where it was like, a propelling moment, I guess, to really give me confidence in what I was doing was legitimate. And so I think that award was given to me in New York City by a foundation called Young Arts, and they do a national, I wouldn't call it a search, but it's kind of like that, where you basically are competing for this top tier award over the course of weeks. And we did like a week down in Miami with some other contestants, I guess you'd call them, and then in New York we did the award show, and we were able to spend time with Martin, and he was able to review our work and give us feedback, and we talked to his editor Thelma, and we were in his office, and then we were on stage the next night, and he was giving us this award, and so yeah, it was kind of one of those life-changing moments, if you will.
So you graduate from SCAD, Savannah College of Art and Design, and you go into commercial work to begin with, correct?
Yeah. So, and I'll say this about SCAD. I mean, I hated the first 2 years of college, like absolutely despised it, wanted to leave college. I told my parents I was going to drop out. I was like, I'm not learning anything about film. I'm learning about drawing and art history and math. And I was like, this is not my thing. But I will say the last 2 years of college was amazing because we were able to do, or I was able to hop on some productions that were in Savannah at the time, like The Conspirator with Robert Redford and X-Men First Class, and then The Town with Ben Affleck. And like Robert Redford's production of The Conspirator was me just shooting all their behind the scenes content. So I was there every day, just watching them work and following them with a camera, which is kind of a dream job for someone who's aspiring to be a filmmaker, is just following one of the best around with a camera. And so my point is, college was great from that aspect of like learning, on the job, if you will. But yeah, then moving into commercial work was, I just needed to make money, and so I feel like
keeping it real,
man. and commercials are money. And so there was also this cool thing where like you're trying to create a story within 30 seconds. And so I felt like I was, hanging on to the integrity of filmmaking while also trying to make money, and so the commercials took me everywhere. I was very fortunate, China to Rio de Janeiro to Australia to Chile. I mean, it was pretty amazing. And China was for Coca-Cola, and we shot over there for about 2 weeks, and never been to China before, and went out took my brother with me because I was like, man, I need some support. So my brother Havard, shout out. And we had a very bare bones crew, a Chinese crew, and I was directing these actors through a translator the whole time, which was very new to me and very foreign. And we ran into several issues while filming there. Like we would run into the CCP police who would come in and basically try to stop us from filming and arrest us. But then we'd have the translator try to explain, hey, no, we're shooting for China. Like this is not an American thing. This is a Chinese thing. And we had locals come out and try to cuss us out and yell at us and point at us. And but all in all, it was an amazing experience. And I think that actually ran into me writing Chinese commercials for Coke. For an entire year, basically, I was just writing commercials. I didn't produce them. I was just writing them and sending them over because they loved that commercial we shot over there so much. So it's bizarre. That's
a great story. But how old were you when you were in China?
Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, I was fresh out of college. So, I mean, 23, 24.
So as I mentioned, you worked with, I know you lived in Los Angeles at one point and went on the road with country music singer Corey Smith. How did that happen and what was that like?
Yeah, so Corey, that offer came when I was in the heat of doing commercials, and I was loving what I was doing, but I'd always wanted to go on tour with a musician and to see like what's that like? What's the road like? And I was like, 1 month, I'll do it for 1 month. And that was the kind of the trial run to see if they liked me and if I liked them. And it was a date, if you will. And so we did that 1 month run and I was like, man, I love it. And they liked what I was doing. And so 1 month turned into 2 years and I'm still buddies with Corey and that whole camp is amazing. And eventually though, I felt like I needed to move on to something different. And that's when I moved to Los Angeles to pursue commercial again. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of when the Lady A thing started though.
Well, for our listeners that don't know this, Charles Kelly and Dave Hayward are from Augusta. Hillary is a wonderful young lady too, but talk about how that happened and what that's been like. And I have watched so many of your videos. I believe you've directed some of their videos, but it's obviously they trust you very much.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough good things about Dave, Charles, and Hillary. I mean, they're like true, cool, like real people. You know, they're not diva status at all, and they've been so freaking supportive of me and my work, and so I can't say enough good things about them. But I was in LA trying to pursue commercials again, you know, and I got a call from Adam Boatman, who is also from Augusta, and he was doing Lady A's video work before I was, but he then transitioned to doing tour management. So he became the tour manager, and he was like, hey, we need a new video guy, but we're going to be in LA to like work on an album. Would you mind just like coming over and like, we're going to shoot a documentary kind of, and they weren't really sure what they wanted. And I was like, yeah, I'll shoot behind the scenes and just come over and hang. And that's what I did. We were in the Hollywood Hills. They had rented this massive house, and they were recording an album. And so I just went over there, hung out with them, and then we hit it off. And basically they asked me to go on tour the next year. And then that transitioned into what's been, about a 4 to 5 year relationship.
Well, it's interesting. I've worked on a couple movies, Forces of Nature with Ben Affleck and Sandra Bullock, and then The Blind Side with Sandra Bullock. Again, a good friend of mine, Casey Hoddenfield, is a first assistant director. But my first experience, and I want to ask you about this, on a movie set, I thought, golly, I thought there'd be all this debauchery and it'd be crazy and everything, and it was not that way at all. I mean, it's a job for people in that industry, but I'm sure some people think, oh, you go on a tour with this great musical act, it's got to be wild and everything. What is it really like?
Yeah, by the way, your role in The Blind Side is amazing.
Yes.
Truly.
I was nominated for an Oscar for best cameo appearance without any speaking lines.
It's that. I mean, honestly, the road is like, you would think it'd be crazy, but it's not, it's actually just a ton of work, mm-hmm. And it's not glamorous at all. You're on a bus with a bunch of other people. You're in a bunk bed on a bus moving at 80 miles an hour, trying to sleep. And you wake up the next day and you're in a new city and you step off the bus and you don't know where you are. And You're trying to figure out, maybe you're in a Walmart parking lot, maybe you're at the next venue. You just never know. So it's definitely not glamorous. I mean, it's definitely fun though. I will say that it's an adrenaline rush, and that's the thing that I think I'm addicted to. Is like, it's the work schedule is insane, and it's such a rush, and you're constantly moving. There's never a moment where you're just chilling, really. It's and it's a big family out there.
Yeah,
I will say that. It's like you're out there with, about 100 people, and you're all just one big family. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I always talk to people about too, though, is that I believe in the power of community and bringing people together. And you talk about it's like a big family, but music has the power to bring people together, which is what I'm all about and what I want to see. And I talk about, I think most people just want to see peace and they want to seek joy. And so that's something that you guys are out there. That's got to be a rush too. Just the smiles that you're putting on people's faces and the joy that you're bringing to them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like I kind of miss it. I mean, we went a whole year without it last year, and I didn't realize how much I enjoyed it and seeing all that and the energy of that. I mean, just being the video dude on stage behind everybody and just feeling the energy of 15,000 people like flooding at you is just like insane high. And you're right. I mean, it does bring pretty much all walks together and unites them. It's pretty cool. It's
one of the things too that you talk about that connection and that energy. I have missed that so much. I finally am back to doing live in-person speaking engagements. I was down at the Aquilina in Miami recently, but face-to-face and doing this, it is, I mean, Zoom is great if you have to, but being live and in person, you just can feel the other person's energy.
100%. And that's what we had kind of rescheduled this a couple of times, and I was like, we could have done it virtually, but I was like, man, I just want to be there in person, because I do feel like it's a better, there's something about a human to human connection. There's this unseen force that I think we take for granted.
There is. And you talk about, I just feel like, I mean, you love the schedule of a tour, and I tell people, it's like when I go skiing, I'm not one of those that sits at the top of the mountain and wants to look out and see the view. I want to go down. And so it's always, the waiting for me is the hardest part. But I was telling our good friend Gaines Hitson the other week, now that I'm doing shout out to Gaines, now that I'm doing the podcast and speaking live again, that's where I think I'm at my best, because I'm dialed in. I have a tendency to overthink things. But if I've got somebody in front of me and we're having a conversation or I'm speaking to a group, I'm just living in the moment.
Totally. And when you're on the stage with to a group, are you kind of feeling the crowd and reading the crowd?
Absolutely. And just to be able to look into people's eyes. But that's one of the things I've really missed during COVID, is that I feed off of other people's energy. I'm feeding off of you today.
Yeah.
But just to not have that, talk about what that was like in Nashville, because I know, and you talked about you missed it, but bands that have been touring for decades, to come off the road and not be able to do what you love, that had to be hard.
It was super hard for those guys. I mean, I felt it, but I know they felt it to, a degree that I couldn't imagine, because I mean, they've been doing this literally since, they're in their teens. Every year. They're used to being on the road, 6 months of the year. And I think even like their relationships are built on that, like at home, with their wife and kids. I mean, they're used to that rhythm of being gone a certain amount. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly when you're thrust into a rhythm that you're not used to, it does something to the body, and it does something to your psyche that I think, it's almost like a weird depression.
Yeah.
And I think everyone in Nashville was feeling that, especially the musicians and, the band guys. They're glad to be back out on the road. Yeah. I can tell you that. That's for sure. Yeah.
Well, that's what they do. But I one of the things I thought about with the music industry during this whole thing, because I've got a lot of local musicians who are friends, but we think of, your Lady A's or your hugely successful bands. There are so many musicians that make a living doing it, but they don't have a lot to fall back on. And I know that they were really, really hurt throughout all this.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, I feel like they knew they loved it, but I guarantee you after last year, they will not take it for granted. That's for sure.
So what are things like in Nashville now?
Insane. I mean, it's, everyone says like, hey, our city's blowing up.
Yeah.
That's something you hear constantly from people who live in different areas. Our city's blowing up. Nashville has been literally, blowing up for 10 years, but now it's just like, oh wow, every day I drive by it, downtown, and I'm like, was that skyscraper there yesterday? Like I don't know. It's like there's a new building popping up literally every day, and so Nashville's thriving, man. It really is. It's insane, truly.
I've never visited Nashville.
You should come.
I definitely.
You should let me know when you get there.
I will definitely let you know when I get there. But it's been interesting to watch what's happened nationwide with this. And you talk about Nashville blowing up. Real estate markets around America, Charleston, we were just down there, is going crazy. It's just, but people are leaving some major metropolitan areas and moving to another. I know that in Phoenix, Arizona, their average home price last year went up by 17%.
Wow. Yeah. And Nashville, I think, is probably right there with it.
Yeah.
I feel like I was like, man, maybe Nashville, real estate will come down. But no, definitely not. It has definitely boomed. And I'll say this too. Just being I'm on dating apps, for better or for worse.
No.
But I will say, like, just looking at profiles on dating apps, you'll see like everyone's like, hey, just moved here from New York. Hey, just moved here from Los Angeles. And it's everywhere. So it's pretty wild.
Well, somebody that was moving from Chicago to Phoenix was telling me that in that real estate market, I know we're kind of getting off topic, but this stuff just floors me.
Yeah.
So you have to offer $100,000 over list price and cash to even be in the game.
Wow. Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah. And I know people in Nashville who are literally trying to, they're putting offers on houses that are not even for sale yet, knowing that they will be, even though the house needs, $200,000 worth of work, they're willing to pay way over and in cash just to, have something, because there's nothing available.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about, the topic is generally change-making leadership, which you have become at a young age. You are a leader in your field, but talk to me a little bit about who are your leadership role models or your mentors in life?
Oh, man.
One might be your agent, I would guess.
Yeah. I think my parents, for sure. I look at both my parents. I respect them highly just because they've done what they love kind of their entire life. My mom's a personal trainer, and she's like, fitness is her thing, and that's what she loves, and she breathes it. That's what she literally will, be researching nutrition every day not because she has to, because she wants to and she loves it. And my dad the same way with restaurants. So yeah, they would definitely be up there. And I've had a lot of mentors who've helped me out throughout filmmaking, and Ray Dillman in LA, who was, a friend of a friend of a friend kind of thing. And, he kind of took me under his wing when I was younger and kind of showed me the commercial ropes. He was working with a lot of Home Depot commercials and, just massive commercials, and able to see that side of production, from an early age, was super helpful, just to kind of, and still today I can email him and say, hey, I'm working on this treatment for this video, or hey, can you send me a treatment of yours that you could, maybe help me out on this and give me some insights. So people like that, I think, are invaluable. Absolutely.
And I bet that you will find plenty of people to mentor as well. So for any young filmmaker out there, what would be some advice that you would give to them?
Honestly, just go out and make stuff with even your iPhone, whatever. Just go and make stuff. And I think, and I fall victim to this too, where it's like we can fall into this trap of just talking about things that we're going to do. Writing constantly is great, but at the same time, it's like, you got to just go out there and just make it. And it might be crap, and that's cool, because a lot of stuff I do is crap too. And it's like, you just gotta keep the system moving and keep it flowing, and don't be too stagnant. Yeah.
Well, and nothing, I had a speaking coach tell me one time I had to do a speech to be critiqued for this Forbes event, which I had never been critiqued by in a speaking engagement. I told somebody that, they said, you're critiqued every time you speak, but literally I've never been nervous. I got through the speech, but my knees were shaking. But she said, in speaking, and I would say this in life, it's about connection, not perfection. So anything you do, it's like the first edition of this podcast, Molly, our marketing director, thought she had some input for me, and she was as to what could make it better. And she thought we needed to retape it, so we redid it. And the first edition turned out great. But so we're better for that. But that's one of the things too about change-making leadership. You can't be afraid to take a risk, to take that leap of faith.
100%. I think that's the biggest thing. Is fear is what holds us back a lot of times. Yeah. And it's something we all battle with, constantly. And I think, especially in the artistic world, whether it's doing podcasts or making, commercials or music videos or documentaries, whatever it is, you're constantly battling that idea of like, oh, what if it sucks?
Yeah. Well, I grew up writing and painting and writing poetry, and now I've published a book, doing a podcast. But that's all this stuff. When you're producing content like that, it's like it's your child, and Truly. And one of the things I've said is I knew, spending 9 years in the mayor's office, I'm like, I know not everybody is going to like what I do, and not everybody is going to like me. And your documentaries or your commercials or your videos, not everybody's going to like it, but I think if the majority of people do, you're always going to have your critics and your cynics, but you can't be driven by the vocal minority.
Yeah. Like Cat Williams always says, I think, the great Cat Williams. Do you know Cat, comedian? Oh yeah. Okay, but he says, man, if you don't have haters, you're not doing something right.
That is exactly correct.
So anyway, I agree with that 100%.
So one quick thing, and we'll touch on. So I think I spent yesterday doing research, watching your videos, your documentaries. There was one about a wooden nickel that I thought was particularly poignant to me. Talk about your documentary, and I want to let you share with people where people can find you so they can see your videos, and just, you are uber talented. But talk about this particular video, and hopefully this conversation will get it some more views, because it is freaking hilarious.
Well, thanks, man. Thank you. You can find everything at hodgesusry.com or on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel that just does like mini documentaries about really dumb, unimportant, cultural mysteries that
are freaking hilarious.
We try
Power Rangers.
Yeah, Power Rangers trying to solve who wrote the McDonald's jingle. Ba da ba ba ba. Just dumb stuff like that. And that's Hodges U on YouTube. But Wooden Nickel came from a super special lady that's been in my life since I was 2 years old. Geneva Gilliard, and she is a housekeeper who has basically raised 22 plus kids, helped raise them over the course of her life, and she is a force, and she has been someone who has instilled so much wisdom in me and the kids that she's helped raise. And I've always wanted to do a piece on her because she's such a character. And not only that, though, she has like the strongest of faith you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And the wisdom that she has like stored up in her over her life experiences is so valuable and so cool. And I could do a whole film on her, I feel like. But anyway, yeah, the film you're talking about is just like this, 7-minute mini documentary that we kind of put together over COVID.
Well, it is extremely cool and extremely funny, which are two words that I would use to describe you. And you've done a wonderful job of not talking all about yourself, but sharing experiences.
Well, appreciate that. Thank you, man. I think filmmaking has brought experiences to me, which is pretty cool. And I think if I look at my life, it's like, so far, it's just, every cool experience that I've had is probably because of filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's been fun. I just hope I can keep doing it a lot longer and try to be better and better.
Well, send love to Lady A from Augusta.
Of course. Yeah, we're going to hit the road. We're going back on tour next week. So we'll do like a 3-month kind of summer fall tour. So it'll be fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being my guest today, man. It is always a pleasure to talk to you. So drop in the mic and we're out.